Welcome to Audit the Audit, where we sort out the who and what and the right and wrong of police interactions. This episode covers emergency vehicles, process servers, and citizens arrests, and is brought to us by Nevada Cop Block's channel and Susan Bassi's channel. Be sure to check out the description below and give them the credit that they deserve. This will be another double feature episode, so be sure to stick around for our coverage of both of today's interactions. On May 24th, 2009, Trooper Daniel Martin of the Oklahoma Highway Patrol was responding to a call in Okfuskee County with his lights and sirens activated when he approached an ambulance driven by EMT Paul Franks, while his partner, Maurice White Jr., who was in charge of the ambulance, was in the back with an elderly patient who had lost consciousness and was suffering from chest pains. The ambulance did not have its lights or sirens activated, as was the EMT's standard practice when dealing with cardiac patients due to the additional stress that lights and sirens can cause. Mr. Franks did not immediately yield to Trooper Martin, and Trooper Martin passed the ambulance to continue towards his destination at a higher rate of speed. After arriving at the scene of the call and finding that his assistance was not needed, Trooper Martin quickly left, chased down the ambulance, and pulled it over. The encounter that followed was captured by Trooper Martin's dash cam.
What's going on? No, I'm talking to the driver.
No, I'm talking to you. I'm the medic.
You better get back in that ambulance. I'm talking to the driver.
I'm in charge of this unit, sir.
Okay.
My name is Maurice White. I'm a critical care paramedic.
I'm going to give you a ticket for failure to yield. And when I go by you saying what's going on, you don't need to give me no hand gestures now. I ain't going to put up shit. You understand me?
And I won't put up with you talking to my driver like that.
I ain't listening to you, buddy. You get your back in that ambulance or I'll take you in. I'm talking to the driver.
And if you would.
Come over here, Paul.
No, we got a patient in this unit right now.
Okay, you want to go ahead and pull over to the side of the road when there's an emergency vehicle behind you?
No, you ran up on us quickly.
I did not run you quickly, buddy.
Yes, you did.
You better get back in that ambulance before you get your butt to jail now. You understand me?
Trooper Martin informs Mr. Franks that he's going to give him a ticket for failure to yield. Section 11-405 of Title 47 of the Oklahoma statutes requires that, quote, upon the immediate approach of an authorized emergency vehicle making use of audible and visual signals, or of a police vehicle properly and lawfully making use of an audible signal or red flashing lights, the driver of every other vehicle shall yield the right of way and shall immediately drive to a position parallel to and as close as possible to the right-hand edge or curb of the roadway clear of any intersection, and shall stop and remain in such position until the authorized emergency vehicle has passed. However, Section 1-103 of Title 47 of the Oklahoma statutes includes in the definition of authorized emergency vehicles both ambulances and state vehicles of law enforcement agencies. According to Section 11-106 of the same title, the driver of an authorized emergency vehicle, when responding to an emergency call, may disregard specific traffic regulations, such as parking laws, red lights, and speed limits. But the statute does not explicitly state that authorized emergency vehicles are not required to yield to other authorized emergency vehicles that have lights and sirens activated. Additionally, the statute clarifies that the exemptions granted to authorized emergency vehicles only apply, quote, when the driver is properly and lawfully making use of an audible signal or of flashing red or blue lights, or a combination of flashing red and blue lights. Therefore, because the ambulance did not have its lights and sirens activated, a court could conclude that it was legally required to yield to the police vehicle.
We're going to get my patient to the hospital. You can take me to jail. We'll discuss this. No. I got a patient in this.
Hey, what's wrong with you around now?
You are
in this car. Turn around now.
I've got a patient.
Turn around.
I've got a patient.
And you are assaulting me. I'm not talking to you. Yes, you are. You turn around. You are obstructing my patient. You turn around now. Martin, calm down. You better turn around. Your wife is in this car. Y'all better back up. Your wife is in this car. Back up. Back up. My wife. Can you follow me to the police car? You can arrest me. Follow me to a prayer hospital. Go to the hospital, man. That's all we ask. Follow me to prayer. I'm here. You said, I'm sorry. I didn't. I didn't see. You get on. Get on. Yeah, you come on to the police station. Right. Go ahead. Let's take my wife to the hospital. Let's get on. Let's take my wife to the hospital.
606, 333, close to break.
Highway patrol, the full.
That's for the 03. I'm over here on traffic stop. The ambulance over here to speak to Greg. You get over here. If you got anybody available, I need some help over here to break.
The dash cam footage is difficult to interpret, but the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals explained what occurred in detail in its decision in the 2011 case of White versus Martin regarding a lawsuit stemming from this encounter. According to the opinion, Trooper Martin repeatedly attempted to speak with Mr. Franks and ordered Mr. White to get back in the ambulance or he was going to jail. Mr. White told Trooper Martin that the ambulance was going to the hospital and that if the trooper wanted to arrest him, he could do so at the hospital. Mr. White then started to walk back to the ambulance. Trooper Martin again told Mr. Franks to come with him, and Mr. White again intervened, saying no and stepping between Trooper Martin and Mr. Franks. Trooper Martin responded by grabbing Mr. White's arm, shoving him against the ambulance, and trying to turn him around and arrest him. Mr. White then backed up against the ambulance and refused to let himself be turned around. This struggle continued, with Trooper Martin telling Mr. White to turn around and that he was obstructing him, and Mr. White refusing to turn around and telling Trooper Martin that he was assaulting him. Trooper Martin eventually abandoned the effort to arrest Mr. White on his own and returned to his car to call for backup. At this point in the altercation, one of the patient's family members began to record on his cell phone, and he was able to capture a better view of what occurred next.
Highway patrolman pulled my mom's ambulance over because he's mad we didn't pull over, and he trying to arrest the police, the AEMT from taking my mother to the hospital. Let's get this all on camera right now. Let me get the car number here. That's all it is. That's all it is. I'll tell you what you say. You said everybody can get it. Yeah. Don't y'all get involved. Okay. We're not. No, I just got you some evidence. That's all. I got you some evidence. That's all.
I've been going hot over here to help the county out. You understand?
Yes, I do. I'm getting in, Mom. Yeah. Do what your mama says. You were under arrest. Okay. You were under. I'll get in there. Charge from assault and travel down. Which is a state law. Can't be my mom. Hey, Mama. My wife is in here. Hey, man. We're not doing that. But damn, we just run away to the hospital. Let go. They gonna do it anyway. Are you going down? They gonna do it anyway, man. Are you going down? What? Come down. It ain't him. It's this right here. This one's trying to be all right. Now listen to me. I just told you you're under arrest. Get the patient to the hospital. My mom is in here. This is my wife, man. Come on. Talk to me. You're arresting me. Talk to me. That's handed at the hospital. That's the hospital, man. It's crazy, man. I'm not breaking no law. I'm not breaking no law. I just want my wife to get help. That's all I want. Fuck the kid's school. Come on, Mike. Come on, Mike. That's all I ask. What up?
After another trooper arrived on the scene, Trooper Martin walked back to Mr. White, who was standing on the side of the ambulance, and told him that he was under arrest and going to jail. Mr. White responded by informing the second trooper that he wanted to press charges against Trooper Martin for assaulting a paramedic. Trooper Martin grabbed Mr. White's wrist and arm and unsuccessfully attempted to twist his arm behind his back. A struggle ensued, and Trooper Martin choked Mr. White, keeping his hand on Mr. White's throat for more than 10 seconds after Mr. White stopped struggling. As we have discussed before here on ATA, when determining whether an officer's use of force was constitutionally excessive, courts consider the three factors established by the Supreme Court in the 1989 case of Graham versus Connor. Quote, the severity of the crime at issue, whether the suspect poses an immediate threat to the safety of the officers or others, and whether he is actively resisting arrest or attempting to evade arrest by flight. The 11th Circuit considered these factors in its decision regarding Mr. White's lawsuit against Trooper Martin, and ultimately determined that, quote, based on the facts viewed most favorably to Mr. White, Trooper Martin's conduct was objectively unreasonable under Graham versus Connor. In reaching this conclusion, the court noted that, quote, the video recordings support the inference that Trooper Martin continued to choke Mr. White for 10 to 12 seconds after Mr. White had stopped resisting. That during this time, Trooper Martin was squeezing hard enough to make breathing difficult for Mr. White, that Mr. White was gasping for air, and that Mr. White was looking at the other trooper on scene and pointing at Trooper Martin's hands around his throat. Now, while the 11th Circuit did not conclusively decide that Trooper Martin used excessive force in this instance, it did hold that a reasonable jury could find that Trooper Martin violated Mr. White's Fourth Amendment right against the use of unreasonable excessive force based on the facts of this encounter. Let's return to the dashcam footage to watch the remainder of this encounter from that perspective.
No, you can't go right now. Get in there and take care of your place. You're not running code. Here, Paul. Sir, I'm going to ask you to step back, okay?
Hey, this
Thank
is
you.
my wife. She needs to be at the hospital. She wouldn't be in this.
If he wouldn't have come out here started, we could have been on the road about 5 minutes ago, partner. Now step back.
I'm sorry to keep coming to the Phoenix and telling me.
Look, Paul, all I'm trying to do is over here and talk to you about it. All right? I didn't need your manager or whoever it is in the back and the paramedic, whoever happens to be in charge, to get out and start obstructing, okay?
I see.
You understand?
Yes, sir, I do.
He's going to jail. Yeah. You don't jump out and talk. You understand me? I don't care who you are. You're not running code. You're not running emergency, okay?
Right.
All right? I didn't just get up behind you and tailgate you and turn on my red lights and siren. I've been going hot over here to help the county out. You understand?
Yes, sir, I do.
Anything that I want, and that
Man, we're going to get you on to the hospital here just quickly, okay? Hey, you're going to jail, you understand me? Okay. You are under arrest. Okay, you are under arrest. I'll get in there.
Press charges on them for assault and assault.
I didn't assault you. I told you to turn around. Turn around.
Also run 4344 on it, Topeka Martin.
Topeka Martin.
Outside 66 of 82.
Okay, Martin.
After Trooper Martin stopped choking Mr. White, the troopers and the EMTs parted ways without further incident. The ambulance drove to the hospital, and Mr. White was not arrested or charged with a crime. Following the encounter, an internal investigation into Trooper Martin's actions was conducted. In a news conference, Oklahoma Highway Patrol Captain Chris West stated that Trooper Martin, quote, failed to recognize that it would have been more reasonable and appropriate to immediately allow the ambulance to continue to the hospital once he understood there was a patient on board the ambulance. ambulance. Oklahoma Public Safety Department Commissioner Kevin Ward also sent a disciplinary letter to Trooper Martin, stating that his disregard for the welfare of the patient justified, quote-unquote, severe discipline. As a result of the investigation, Trooper Martin was suspended for 5 days without pay and was required to take a so-called anger assessment. On July 21, 2009, Mr. White filed a civil rights lawsuit against Trooper Martin in federal court, and on December 11th, Trooper Martin filed counterclaims against Mr. White for slander and assault and battery. The district court denied Trooper Martin qualified immunity for Mr. White's excessive force claim, and Trooper Martin appealed this decision to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals. The 11th Circuit affirmed the denial of qualified immunity in the 2011 opinion that we discussed earlier in this episode, and on January 25, 2012, the case was closed after the parties reached an undisclosed settlement agreement. Trooper Daniels passed away on April 23, 2018 after suffering a heart attack. He was still employed by the Oklahoma Highway Patrol at the time of his death. Overall, Trooper Daniels gets an F for maintaining a belligerent and furious demeanor throughout the encounter, using excessive force against Mr. White, repeatedly failing to practice basic common sense and human decency, and endangering the life of a citizen who was potentially suffering a heart attack for the sake of his own ego. Trooper Daniels was clearly enraged throughout this encounter, and was unable to control his emotions or his conduct in order to fulfill his duties in serving the public. Had he been thinking clearly at any point during this interaction, Trooper Daniels would have immediately realized the patient's life was far more important than the potential traffic violation he was attempting to pursue, and would have allowed the ambulance to continue to the hospital without trying to write Mr. Franks a ticket or arrest Mr. White. There is absolutely no excuse for Trooper Daniels' behavior, and it is clear that he was far from suitable to be a police officer. Mr. White gets an A, because although Trooper Daniels likely was within his authority to stop the ambulance, and Mr. White may have obstructed him and resisted arrest, Mr. White vigorously advocated for his patient above everything else, and was more than willing to submit to arrest once he was able to ensure the patient arrived safely at the hospital. This is one of the rare instances where I believe a citizen's resistance to an officer was warranted, as the delays caused by Trooper Daniels was putting the patient's life at risk, and it is clear that throughout this unfortunate and unnecessary encounter, Mr. White's only concern was the caring for his patient. I commend Mr. White for his fortitude and for speaking out about Trooper Daniels' reprehensible conduct and taking appropriate legal action after this encounter. Let's move on to the next interaction. On July 21, 2022, Officer Ryan Foyles of the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office in California responded to a call from County Attorney Robert Pittman, who claimed that process server Mark Andrews, who was attempting to serve him court documents, was trespassing on his property. The interaction that followed was captured on Officer Foyles' body camera.
It pushes forward? Oh, this one?
Yes, sir.
All right.
How's it going?
Good, how are you?
Process server.
Okay.
I was just waiting to see when he got home from work.
Yeah, and
I can give it to you to give to him.
all right, let me see who the
He's one of the county councils.
Oh, okay.
His name's Pittman.
Sheriff 1 Edward 33, code 4.
Usually when they call you guys, I give you the thing and it's cleared.
All right.
I don't know, are they home?
I don't know. It looks like they were looking at video, but...
Yeah, because they got videos in the windows and stuff, so.
Yep. There he is right there.
Oh. Would help if you answer the door, sir. Been knocking. I have limited exemptions for trespass under the Civil Code of Procedure, sir.
No, actually, you don't. She illegally opened the gate. I've already talked to the DA about it.
Mr. Andrews argues that he has limited exemption to trespassing laws as a process server, and Mr. Pittman states that he does not because he opened the gate. Section 602.8 of the California Penal Code, which is one of California's multiple trespassing statutes, states that, quote, any person who, without the written permission of the landowner, the owner's agent, or the person in lawful possession possession of the land, willfully enters any lands enclosed by fence, belonging to or occupied by another, is guilty of a public offense. As such, it is possible that a court could determine that entering Mr. Pittman's fence property was an act of trespassing. However, as Mr. Andrews mentioned, process servers in California are given a limited exemption to certain trespassing laws when they're serving papers, and Section 602.8 explicitly states that the prohibition against entering fence property does not apply to a process server who is making a lawful service of process. Additionally, since Mr. Andrews seemed to have entered through an unlocked gate and approached the residential home of Mr. Pittman using the driveway, it is also possible that a court would conclude that his conduct would not constitute trespassing, even if he was not engaged in the service of process. In the 2023 case of People v. Popke, the 5th District California Court of Appeals found that a law enforcement officer who was serving process on an individual at their home did not violate the Fourth Amendment when he opened an unlocked gate, parked his patrol car in the driveway, walked along the unobstructed driveway to what he believed was the commonly used door to the house, and knocked. In reaching this conclusion, the court reasoned that the officer's actions were consistent with that of a private citizen attempting to contact the occupants of the residence, and that, now quoting, he exercised no more than the same license to intrude as a reasonably respectful citizen. Any door-to-door salesman would reasonably have taken the same approach to the house. As such, even if he was not a process server, Mr. Andrews would have a valid argument that approaching a residential home through an unlocked gate does not constitute trespassing, regardless of whether or not the individual is serving papers.
I just talked to my office. He apparently attempted to serve that at the, or refused to leave it at the office.
No, she said she couldn't accept it.
No, she didn't say that.
No. You're served, sir.
That's fine. I want him cited.
For?
Illegally entering the property. I watched her pop the gate. It's on camera.
Yeah, no problem. It's on camera.
And you also walked around the property.
Right, and I knock on things to see if someone's home.
Well, A, I was in the middle of a meeting. B, again, I'm not entering or opening the door for anybody.
Check with the sheriff's department. I was charged with trespassing once and knocking a hole. I'm just here to serve papers and I'm leaving now that it's
feels
done.
differently.
So here's all this stuff.
That's my office where you have it.
Okay. Do you want to do the citizen's arrest for the trespassing?
Sure.
Okay. Let me go get that form for you to sign, and then we can go from there.
Okay.
All right. And then, can I get a copy of the tape of him entering, pushing through the gate?
I've seen it on camera. I don't know how to get it, so I'll see if I
Okay. Perfect.
can do it.
Perfect. No.
He knows this is bullshit.
So.
He's just mad that I served him at home. How's your day going?
It's all right. How's yours?
I got one more of these. I gotta do it in Petaluma.
Okay.
See, it pays to sit around for a little while, then we don't have to drive twice.
Get your ID on you real quick. Let me just go verify with him that he's actually going to sign this.
I'm sorry?
Let me just go verify with him that he's actually going to sign this.
Alright.
Because if he's not, then you and I both will be on our way.
Okay.
So just give me 1 second.
You can tell him because, like, when I've had to serve down at the jail, because they can't let me through the gate, they kept trying to charge me. And, like, and I said, no, I got gate thing unless it's at a jail or a facility like this, and I've already done it in front of Judge Dollar.
Okay.
And she's dismissed it.
Yeah, and to be honest,
It's because he knows somebody's the only reason they may press it.
yeah, and to be honest, I don't know if they will or not. I mean, to be honest, you
No,
guarantee.
I know you're just doing your job.
I guarantee you know the civil code better than I do too.
I've been doing this 14 years. You see
yeah.
how bad and everything.
Yeah, so, yeah, I'm sure, like I said, if it could get dropped, but like I said, if he wants to push the issue and sign this, then you'll get a cite. If he doesn't want to sign it, then you'll be on your way.
Okay.
So
Just so you get it for the record with you.
Yeah.
I was here serving papers.
Yeah.
When I walked around, I sat down. I was waiting for him to get home.
Yeah.
So.
Not a problem.
All right. Thanks.
Yep. My partner might be showing up here shortly. Just let him know it's all fine. It's all right, sir. If I can just get your signature here, I'll fill in all his information. Just your signature, your phone number, address. This is just saying that you want to place him under citizen's arrest for the trespassing. And then I will fill in all his information up top there.
Officer Foyles gives Mr. Pittman a so-called citizen's arrest form to, quote-unquote, arrest Mr. Andrews for trespassing, and Mr. Pittman completes it. Under Section 837 of the California Penal Code, quote, a private person may arrest another for a public offense committed or attempted in his presence. Now, because trespassing is considered a public offense under California law, individuals who are not law enforcement officers may conduct a so-called private person's arrest, also known as a citizen's arrest, on individuals who trespass on their property. As explained in Policy 333 of the Sonoma County Sheriff's Office policies, quote, in all circumstances in which a private person is claiming to have made an arrest, the individual must complete and sign an office private person's arrest form under penalty of perjury. The policy also states that, quote, any deputy presented with a private person wishing to make an arrest must determine whether or not there is reasonable cause to believe that such an arrest would be lawful. Should any deputy determine that there is no reasonable cause to believe that a private person's arrest is lawful, the deputy should take no action to further detain or restrain the individual beyond that which reasonably appears necessary to investigate the matter, determine the lawfulness of the arrest, and protect the public safety. If the deputy determines that the arrest is unlawful, the policy requires them to promptly release the arrested individual and to advise the parties that no arrest will be made and that the circumstances will be documented in a related report. Now, in this situation, Officer Foyles was unsure whether Mr. Pittman's citizen's arrest of Mr. Andrews constituted trespassing, so he chose to issue a citation and investigate further after the fact. Because this specific scenario is not addressed in the policy, it is unclear whether Officer Foyles' decision would be considered a violation of policy.
And then,
We're trying to pull the footage. We're having a hard time.
Okay.
For whatever reason, the cameras surrounding the house didn't pick up the motion. So
No problem.
been upside down.
what's your last name, sir?
Pittman, I just texted it to you. Oh, okay. 2 videos.
And Robert, what's your date of birth? This number right here is a good contact number for you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Or I can give you the office number, whatever's sensible.
That's fine. And then, I got all that. All right. And
How do you want me to give you these? So you just want to
If you-
timestamps on them.
if you can email that, my email's right here at the bottom. Is there any way
Okay.
that you can email that video?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
I can probably move it from here to email and do it that way.
Yeah, so my email's right there at the bottom. Give me 1 second, I'll write the case number on here too.
Okay, perfect.
Sheriff Taylor 33. Can I get a CR, please? 10-4. All right. So there's the case number. There's my card. And whenever you get a chance, you could email that. My email's there at the bottom of the card. And then I will upload that to our evidence
All right, we'll do that.
server. Yeah, if you have any questions, you have my card there.
Okay.
Emailing me is probably the easiest way to get
I
a hold of me
appreciate it.
directly.
Thank you very
And
much.
I'll
Foyles?
try to answer any questions that you
All right.
have. All right, sir?
Thank you.
Yep.
According to Officer Foyles' incident report for the encounter, after issuing the citation and returning to the police office, he researched the trespassing statute and confirmed that process servers cannot violate Penal Code 602.8 while in the performance of their duties. Officer Foyles then contacted Mr. Andrews and informed him that he would be voiding the citation. He also attempted to contact Mr. Pittman to explain his decision via telephone and email, but he received no response. Overall, Officer Foyles gets an A for maintaining a calm and professional demeanor throughout the encounter, treating both parties in the dispute with the utmost respect, and being willing to admit what he did not know, and use this situation as a learning opportunity. Although it certainly would have been better for Officer Foyles to have already been knowledgeable of the exception in the trespassing statute for process servers, California trespassing laws are extensive and confusing, and I can understand why Officer Foyles was not aware of this specific provision, particularly if he had not dealt with a potential trespassing complaint against a process server before. Here, Officer Foyles did the best thing he could under the circumstances. He admitted his lack of knowledge, he researched the issue, and he voided the citation after deciding that there was no basis for a trespassing charge. I commend Officer Foyles for his professionalism in a potentially contentious situation, and his willingness to learn and grow as an officer. Mr. Andrews gets an A+ for remaining calm and respectful throughout the encounter, politely explaining the exemption for process servers to Officer Foyles, and accepting the citation without incident, knowing that he would be able to work the issue out after the fact. Mr. Andrews' conduct during this interaction is an excellent example of how citizens should respond to citations or arrests when they know that they have not done anything wrong, by voicing their disagreement and attempting to share their knowledge, but ultimately complying and fighting the charge the right way. It was refreshing to see an encounter where both the officer and the so-called arrestee behaved admirably, and ultimately the correct outcome was achieved in this situation. Let us know if there is an interaction or legal topic that you would like us to discuss in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to check out my second channel for even more police interaction content.